Somewhere beneath the grey waters of the North Atlantic, a vessel moves in near-perfect silence. It carries enough firepower to reshape a coastline, enough sensors to track a whisper across 100 miles of open ocean, and enough automation to operate with a crew a fraction the size of anything that came before it. It hasn't been built yet, but it's coming. And by 2035, the world's oceans will never look the same again. We are standing at the edge of the most radical transformation in naval warfare since the battleship gave way to the aircraft carrier. The ships being designed, funded, and in some cases already under construction today will redefine what it means to control the seas. They will be faster, stealthier, more lethal, and more intelligent than anything currently sailing under any flag. And the nations racing to build them understand something that most people don't, that whoever dominates the oceans in 2035 may well dominate the world. But here's what makes this story truly extraordinary. The most powerful warship coming by 2035 may not look anything like what you're imagining right now, and one of the developments being quietly tested in classified facilities could make everything else on this list obsolete before it even reaches the water. Let's start at the beginning. To understand where naval power is going, you have to understand where it's been and, more importantly, why the old models are breaking down. For the better part of 8 decades, the American aircraft carrier has been the undisputed symbol of maritime dominance. 11 nuclear-powered supercarriers, each one a floating airbase the length of nearly 4 football fields, have projected American power from the Persian Gulf to the South China Sea. When a crisis erupts anywhere on Earth, the first question asked in every situation room is always the same: where are the carriers? But military analysts have been saying something uncomfortable for years now. The carrier, in its current form, may be approaching the end of its era of invincibility. And the reason why is what sets the stage for everything that follows. The mathematics of modern anti-ship missiles have changed the equation. China's DF-21D, the so-called carrier killer ballistic missile, has a reported range of over 1,500 kilometers. Russia's 3M-22 Zircon hypersonic missile travels at speeds exceeding Mach 8, roughly 6,000 miles per hour. At that speed, existing point defense systems have less than a handful of seconds to respond. The carrier, which once operated safely beyond the horizon, now finds itself within theoretical range of shore-based systems it cannot easily destroy. This is not speculation. This is confirmed capability, openly acknowledged by the Pentagon itself. So what do you do when the most powerful symbol of your naval strength becomes vulnerable? You don't abandon the concept. You reinvent it. The United States Navy's answer begins with the USS Gerald R. Ford class, the most expensive warships ever built. The lead ship, commissioned in 2017, and its follow-on vessels represent the cutting edge of American carrier technology. They feature an electromagnetic aircraft launch system, replacing the old steam catapults that had served since World War II. Advanced arresting gear that can stop a 100,000-pound aircraft in 300 feet. A dual-band radar, so sophisticated it can simultaneously track ballistic missiles in the upper atmosphere and small surface contacts at sea level. And a nuclear power plant generating 3 times the electrical power of the previous Nimitz class, power that will feed energy weapons, directed energy systems, and electronic warfare suites that haven't even been publicly announced yet. But the Ford class is really only the first chapter of what's coming, because the Navy isn't just improving carriers, it's completely rethinking the fleet that surrounds them. This is where the story becomes truly fascinating. The DDG-X program, the United States Navy's next-generation destroyer, is scheduled to begin replacing the current Arleigh Burke class in the early 2030s. The Arleigh Burke has been the backbone of American surface warfare for 30 years. It's an exceptional ship. But the DDG-X is designed for a different world. It will be larger, with a hull optimized for directed energy weapons, railguns and high-energy lasers that require enormous amounts of electrical power. It will incorporate new propulsion technology, integrated electric drive systems that offer both efficiency and the ability to surge power to weapon systems during combat. And it will be designed from the keel up to operate alongside unmanned vessels, acting as a mothership, a controller, a hub for a distributed fleet of autonomous systems. That phrase, distributed fleet of autonomous systems, is one you'll hear more and more because it represents one of the most significant strategic shifts in naval thinking in generations. And it connects directly to a development that even many defense analysts haven't fully grasped yet. The United States Navy has been quietly accelerating its Ghost Fleet Overlord program. In tests already conducted in open water, unmanned surface vessels operating with significant autonomy have demonstrated the ability to conduct reconnaissance, coordinate with manned ships, and carry weapons payloads. The vision being developed is a fleet where the manned warship is no longer fighting alone. It's commanding a swarm, a constellation of unmanned vessels that can disperse, absorb punishment, overwhelm defenses through sheer numbers, and reconcentrate for a decisive strike, all without putting additional sailors at risk. But America is far from alone in this race, and what its competitors are building is what should be keeping naval planners awake at night. China's naval expansion over the past decade has been described by the Congressional Research Service as the most ambitious in modern history. In 2000, the People's Liberation Army Navy was essentially a coastal defense force. Today, it is the largest navy in the world by number of hulls, but raw numbers only tell part of the story. What matters is what China is building now and what it intends to launch by 2035. The Type 3 carrier, the Fujian, represents China's leap into genuine blue water naval capability. Unlike its predecessors, it uses an electromagnetic launch system, the same technology as the American Ford class, signaling that China has solved one of the most technically demanding engineering challenges in naval architecture. And defense analysts believe the Type 4, expected to follow, may be nuclear-powered, bringing China into direct parity with American carrier technology for the first time. But perhaps more significant than the carriers are the surface combatants surrounding them. China's Type 55 destroyer, designated a cruiser by some Western analysts due to its size and capability, is widely considered one of the most capable surface combatants currently in service anywhere in the world. With 112 vertical launch cells capable of firing a mix of anti-ship, anti-aircraft, and land attack missiles, it is a formidable platform. And China has been building them at a pace that Western shipyards simply cannot match. What happens next is even more surprising. Russia, despite its economic constraints and the catastrophic losses its conventional forces have sustained in Ukraine, continues to invest in specific naval capabilities that represent genuine threats to Western maritime power. The Russian Navy's focus has narrowed deliberately onto submarine warfare and hypersonic weapons. The Yasen M-class submarine, of which several are now in service, is considered by NATO analysts to be a near peer to the American Virginia class in terms of quieting and sensors, and it carries the Zircon hypersonic missile, that same weapon capable of Mach 8 speeds, in a submarine launch configuration, meaning it can be fired from a position that is extraordinarily difficult to locate and track. The submarine, in fact, may be the most consequential platform of the 2035 naval landscape. Because while surface ships can be tracked, targeted, and increasingly threatened by the proliferation of anti-ship missiles, submarines remain the great equalizer. The nation that achieves decisive underwater superiority may be able to neutralize the most powerful surface fleet ever assembled. The United States recognizes this. The Virginia-class attack submarine, currently the world's most capable in service, is already being upgraded with the Virginia Payload Module, a 70-foot hull extension that adds 4 large-diameter tubes capable of firing dozens of additional missiles per submarine. And beyond Virginia lies SSN-6, the next-generation American attack submarine, currently in concept development with specifications that prioritize one thing above all else: speed. Because at the depths and distances involved in modern undersea warfare, speed may matter as much as stealth. Yet military analysts believe this may only be the beginning. There is one more dimension to the 2035 naval picture that changes every calculation we've discussed so far. It is the integration of artificial intelligence into naval combat systems at a level that has no historical precedent. The ships of 2035 will not just be faster or more heavily armed than their predecessors. They will be fundamentally smarter. Sensor fusion systems that today require teams of trained analysts working for hours will be accomplished in seconds by AI systems that can simultaneously integrate satellite imagery, signals intelligence, acoustic data from distributed underwater sensors, and radar returns from multiple platforms, producing targeting solutions with a speed and precision that no human team can match. The United States Navy's Project Overmatch is the unclassified name for its effort to link every naval platform, surface, submarine, and airborne, into a single, coherent combat network. The goal is a fleet where information flows instantly, where every ship knows what every other ship knows, and where a target acquired by one platform can be engaged by the optimal weapon from the optimal vessel within seconds. This is called cooperative engagement, and its implications are staggering. Consider what this means in practice. A submarine operating silently at depth detects a target with its sonar. That information is instantly shared across the network. A destroyer on the surface or a maritime patrol aircraft overhead launches the weapon. The submarine never reveals its position. The strike occurs before any adversary can respond. This is not science fiction. Elements of this architecture are already operational. By 2035, it will be fully mature. And yet, and this is perhaps the most important caveat in everything we've discussed today, all of these capabilities exist in a world of increasing countermeasures. Every advance in offensive capability generates a corresponding investment in defense. China is developing laser and railgun systems of its own. Russia is investing heavily in electronic warfare that can degrade the very data links that make cooperative engagement possible. And both nations are pursuing undersea capabilities designed to detect and track the next generation of supposedly quiet Western submarines. The most powerful warship coming by 2035 will be extraordinary, but it will operate in a world where every extraordinary capability is met by an equally determined effort to defeat it. The ships, the submarines, the unmanned systems, the artificial intelligence, all of it exists within a strategic competition that will define the character of global power for the rest of this century. And the final development could completely change everything. Because several defense research programs, some American, some allied, some whose existence is still classified, are exploring a concept that makes everything else discussed today look incremental. Directed energy weapons powerful enough to defeat hypersonic missiles. Autonomous underwater vehicles capable of operating for months without human contact. Hull materials that absorb radar energy rather than reflect it. And propulsion systems that could, theoretically, allow a surface warship to reach speeds that fundamentally change the geometry of naval combat. We don't know which of these will succeed. We don't know which programs will be cancelled, which breakthroughs will arrive ahead of schedule, and which ambitious plans will founder against the brutal reality of physics, budget, and time. What we do know is that the navies of the world's major powers are investing at a scale and pace that signals something profound, a genuine belief at the highest levels of military planning that the character of maritime power is about to change more dramatically than at any point since 1945. The ocean has always been the great highway of human civilization, the medium through which empires rise, trade flows, and power projects itself to the farthest corners of the earth. Control of the seas has never not mattered, and in 2035, with a fleet of warships unlike anything the world has seen before, that truth will be more relevant than ever. The question isn't whether these ships will come. They are coming. The question, the one that should occupy every strategist, every policymaker, every citizen who cares about the shape of the world their children will inhabit, is this: when the most powerful warships in history finally meet one another in contested waters, will the systems built to prevent that conflict prove stronger than the systems built to win it? The answer may arrive sooner than any of us expect.